everyone, welcome back to Planet Coaster, welcome back to Warped Worlds, and in today's episode we're going to be building an interior section for the queue line of the ride that's going in this sort of main street building. And this really is made up of two parts. So you've got the sort of queue entrance here, and then the queue line's going to be in a slightly bigger sort of room behind this first initial bit. And the idea we're going for here is that you're going into this sort of big department store, and you're going into the jewellers, which is going to be where the main queue line is behind all this, and this is just sort of your entrance way in, leading into that jeweller's shop. I wanted it to look all pretty posh and expensive, and do a bit of custom sort of scenery as we go in. I had some ideas in my head of how I wanted things to look, and that's really what we sort of put together here with the pieces in the game. So first of all, using a load of red wooden planks just to make the floor tiles there. This would just be wooden flooring, I guess. But we've got the two paths going up, one to the left, one to the right. I should actually put some signs up there, which I haven't done yet, to explain which is the entrance and which is the exit. But the entrance is going to be to the right and the exit is the one to the left. All the path works out pretty well to get into the actual queue itself. I'm quite happy with how reasonably easy that was to deal with, because pathing can sometimes be a nightmare. But yeah, this entrance area, like I said, I wanted it to look really grand and sort of like it's leading you up to something. So lots of gold, lots of expensive looking trim and stuff, and then we put a few paintings on the wall as well, that are supposed to sort of give this sort of grand Roaring Twenties sort of idea, because obviously that's still the theme or the era that we're in for this build. So I want everything to look as relevant as possible and sort of tie in nicely with the facades that we've got outside as well. So yeah, you can see I'm using one of the welfare sort of pack pieces, one of the Asian pieces there, to create a sort of trim. And I'm sure I've used this piece lots of times before, but it does work really well. This, because it's got a nice little bit of detailing on it as well, and you can see I'm just using stuff like the flat decorations. I can't remember what they're called, but they're really good for like extra little decoration on the wall and stuff as well. And then we're just using sort of wooden wall pieces and random deco pieces for the sort of skirting board type bit that connects it, and I think it looks really good together as a composition. I think it works quite well, and yeah, I needed some sort of fencing to go along, so that it looks like a proper staircase. I had to just do that custom because the fences in game obviously don't go sort of diagonally downwards. It doesn't look right if you put them like that. So yeah, I just used some various pieces to do that. And then the good thing about obviously what I built here is it can somewhat just be copied over to the other side, so I only have to build it once, although because it's the other way around in a way, there was a load of sort of modifying that I had to do to get it to fit in the other side. I'm not sure how much of that I've left in the recording. Well, obviously none of it actually looking now, because you can see that the other side is all there as well. So then we're going to have a sort of slight downward staircase here to give the impression that there's like a staff sort of area underneath here. Whether that would be part of the theme park or just part of the actual design of the building itself, I don't know really, because like I say, we're not going for realism, so it's not meant to be a realistic backstage area or whatever. I just needed something to cover up that space really, and yeah, it just looks like it could be a backstagey sort of staff area for this department store or whatever it is. And then just using those same doors that I've used before because they look really good and they fit the theme quite well, I think. And then just recolouring them to red. But yeah, I think that does a good enough job at covering that little area up. I didn't want to spend too much time on that bit because it's obviously not the sort of main focus, but it joins the sort of two sides together quite nicely, I feel, and makes the room all quite coherent together, I guess. And yeah, just extending out the path now because I have to work out how we're going to do this queue line, and yeah, we don't want to see the second room from this room, so there's slight corridors for the entrance and exit to the left and right as you go in and out of the ride, so you'll see that a bit as you're going through to the main room. And yeah, just really finishing off this room now, so I wanted the roof or the ceiling rather, to sort of fit in well with it, so I made some trims and rotated them horizontally, I guess. Put them at a diagonal so that they, there's a bit of trim connecting the ceiling to the rest of the walls, I guess. And then just copying some stuff across to the ceiling as well before we box it all in. As always, it's much easier to do an interior before you put all the walls on. So that's what I did here. Obviously there's some minor details that I have to go back and adjust once the walls are in, which does make things more difficult, but yeah, we get there. And then as you're on your way out, obviously I needed to cover up what we had there before, which in fact I did make a sort of window design there before, but I wasn't happy with it, so in the end just go for very basic trims because you're only going to just see that on your way out. Just copy and pasted everything across and made sure that you couldn't see any of the blue colour because it wouldn't fit in with the theme then. And I think, yeah, these pieces that I've used for this do work for the theme that I've decided to go for here, even though that's not what they're designed for. I think the way in which I've used them sort of illustrates or gives a good enough impression of a more upmarket type store from the 1920s. Again, a few sort of finishing touches to this room before we move on to the second room. And the first thing I had to do really was adjust sort of where the pathing goes, because this will connect you to the ride, to the station for the ride, which I haven't started on yet, so I'm not going to talk about at all in this video. Well, I can't really because it doesn't exist, but I've got an idea of what I want it to be. I don't want to give any clues away at this point. So to start with, I had an idea of having this sort of gold tiled flooring, and yeah, as I put that in, I thought it's not going to work having the queue going downhill, so I'm going to have to level everything out. And I brought the terrain up to the height to meet the path work as well, because I just felt it would work easier, or more easily rather. That's what you can see me doing here. The gold path doesn't stay either. I'm not happy with that really, or rather I wasn't happy with that, so I changed it up. And in fact, initially I do a lot of gold in this room, and I think, yeah, it's really sort of bling and it looks really good. But then the more I looked at it, the more I thought that's not going to work, so I did end up completely redoing this second room. So you will see a little bit of footage in a bit of me putting the first sort of design in before I went back and changed it. So yeah, again we've got that hideous gold flooring. I can't remember at which point I got rid of that, but here I wanted to make a sort of carpet or rug that goes in the middle. And I did have to use a Theme Maker Toolkit piece for that, as well as duplicating a lot of small pieces, but I can't remember what pieces they were, but I'm sure that rug alone is sort of like 400 pieces. It's not great for the piece count, but once I changed that floor colour out, you can really see how it sort of sits nicely in the theme of this room. So now I move on to doing like the jewellery stands. Building props is always something that I struggle with a bit in the game. I'm better with the architecture sort of stuff. But after a few different tries, I managed to come up with what I wanted. And you can see there I put the crown jewels in the centre. And they're going to be sort of a centerpiece. As you come into this room, you can be like, oh wow, the crown jewels there in a big case, and that's sort of going to be something to do with the theme of the ride once we go ahead and start working on that. So yeah, we've got the cabinet with the crown jewels in, and then a few other jewellery cabinets dotted around the sort of queue line. I wanted to make sure that they're all sort of in a position where people could look in and see them as they're walking past the queues. It's something interesting to look at, which you see sort of Disney parks and stuff do quite a lot. Make the queue lines really interesting, which is something that I definitely wanted to do here. Just using the gemstone pieces then to sort of indicate different types of jewellery. I couldn't be bothered to try and make really tiny little detailed rings or watches or anything like that. There probably are more pieces in the game that I could use that would be more appropriate, but I thought the gemstone pieces work absolutely fine for what we're looking for. And the cabinets are mainly made up of temple pieces, pillars and just glass pieces. So really, really simple stuff. But I think they work really well together, and the colours and everything. And you can see also that I've changed the ground tile, the floor tile rather, out to a black colour there, and it looks much, much better. Now you can see what I was originally going for with the design for the walls. It was going to be this sort of really heavy gold theme everywhere. And there's a sort of brief look at how it would have looked had I gone for that, but I just felt it took away a bit too much from the actual jewellery cabinets themselves, the props that I wanted everyone's attention to be drawn to, and it was just too much gold, and I decided I hated it, so I took all the gold out and went for a completely different idea in the end, which was basically, is really simple actually, the design of this. It's just some sort of grey archways that sit all around the room. So yeah, there's not really much detailing on the walls or anything like that, and I think that helps add more attention and focus to the props and the cabinets that are dotted around the room, which is where I want people's focus to be. The only tricky thing here was trying to get it to coincide with the bits where the queue line joins in from the other corridor. I had to sort of lower the archways a bit and really fiddle about with them to get them to fit in nicely, because of the pieces that I used here as well, because the piece sticks out of like quite a way back, and for the archways you can sort of see the pieces that I've used, and it doesn't look too great, so I have to cover it up. But yeah, I think it will work fine, because by the time I'm finished there'll be a facade wall outside, so you won't be able to see any of the bits that cut through, if that makes sense. That will probably be something I work on in the next video, in the next build. But at the moment, yeah, this is just the interior that I've completed. So yeah, you walk through this fancy jewellery shop, look at the crown jewels, and then you get to the station for the ride, which again I might start on in the next one. I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do it either. It's going to be interesting. I don't want to give too much away about what I'm thinking about what to do. Plus, I haven't fully decided on what to do yet myself either. So, yeah, we'll wait and see. We'll all wait together. I wanted something on the ceiling to add a bit more interest as well. So right above the centre cabinet, I just added this dome thingy, I guess. And yes, it was rather a heavy piece count, but it does look pretty nice. So I kind of think it was worth it. And then I just stick the ceiling on, which we keep fairly plain. I just think that centerpiece in the ceiling breaks it up enough to make it look nice, and then I add some sort of trims around the edge as well, just to blend it all in. And yeah, I mean, this dome isn't perfect. There's a few sort of cutty-outy bits and stuff, but it's good enough. It does the job for what we want. And yeah, it's not like a heavily detailed room, but I think there's enough in there to make it look interesting as you walk through, or rather as the guests walk through. And yeah, that's pretty much it for today's build then. So I'll see you all in the next one, and thank you very much for watching. Enjoy the cinematics at the end, and I'll see you all later. Bye bye.